Welcome to With You Podcast,
where we explore relationships and life transitions.
I'm David.
And I'm Tara.
And we're here to talk to you today about a topic we've chatted about in the car.
We've chatted about it a lot of times.
I know it's been on my head a lot because it's interfacing with my profession and yours.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about AI. Basically, what's fake, what's real, how do we deal with the new influx of AI, chat GPT, artificial intelligence into everything we do. First, should we just catch up a little bit?
Sure.
Like we always start by saying it's been a while, but this is a new year.
Yep. Happy New Year. When is it too
It's too late.
Okay.
It's too late.
It's too late to say Happy New Year. All right.
Yeah.
I always wonder, I guess, now it's too late.
Yeah. So it seems like every time we come back around to recording an episode, we've been somewhere
We've been
in between
doing things.
We're coming back, we're tired, we're trying to catch up and maybe reflect a little on some new things in our lives. We had the holidays.
Yeah. And
we had some travel.
It was great to
We got hit by a deer.
Let's just put this on the record. You got hit by a deer.
I did. Well, we all got hit by the deer.
Oh, yeah. I really thought that was the end for me.
I know. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, so we're driving in Michigan.
Okay, so first of all,
let's
talk about what's normally happened in my car, which is so once our minivan died after 15 years of service, hard work, and toting
it went to a nice farm in Connecticut.
It got towed away to be taken apart for parts, I assume.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen to me too, right?
Let's not go there.
Right.
Yeah, all your parts are working. You're good.
Yeah, I'm okay.
So, I got my first new car, which is our car, but I drive it.
Right. Yeah.
Most of the time. You can walk to work.
I can walk to work. I don't need a car. So
So I'm either dropping you off at the airport or you're walking to work. That's pretty much it.
And I think for both of us, it's the first brand new car we've ever had.
Completely.
Every time we bought some from our family or our old used car. So this was like a brand new 2020s new car.
It's been a special car. But in the short number of years that we've owned it, it's had a few mishaps.
Yeah, well, I think we only had...
Up until the deer incident, it was always you driving when the mishaps happened.
Now, I just want to go on record, Your Honor, that I was most of the time stationary when the bad things happened.
Somehow that's true. And yet, trouble finds you.
I know, it wasn't user error, but I just happened to be behind the wheel.
An obstacle just happened to be in the path of the tires or happened to hit the windshield. Or
one time we were in downtown Chicago, you drove all the way down and then wanted me to parallel park, and I ran over a screw
and popped the tire
because we're in the middle of the road and you're like, I need you to do this. So we did a fire drill.
Yeah, you're skilled at parallel parking and it makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So
and then we came back to the car and it had a flat tire.
Yeah, that was a minor incident compared to being hit by a drunk driver once when we were stationary at a red light.
Yeah.
Which you were at the driver's wheel, but it happened to all of us.
Yeah.
And
another
tire, another shattered windshield.
Yeah. I haven't had a lot of luck with the car. So
a speeding ticket.
Well, now that was my fault.
That was your fault.
Well, and then the time we got out of a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Well, that was because the officer liked your license plate.
I know.
And he goes, I called it in. I'm not going to say the license plate, but I called it in. And what did the dispatcher say?
They all said, "Aw," because our license plate says "with you." So they thought that was nice and let us off.
Yeah. So all that to say, Tara does not let me drive her car anymore.
However, on Christmas Eve,
we're driving.
And I was driving.
Yeah.
And there were 5 of us in the car.
Yeah.
And a deer came out of absolutely nowhere. Nobody saw it coming. None of us. Not one of us. Until its face was visible in the windshield.
Yeah, the nose was rubbing on the windshield.
Jumped up and
into your
its whole
car.
side of its body hit the car. For those who are worried about it, because I was worried about this, my first thing was, how's the deer? And everybody's like, how's the car? The car was fine. We were fine. The deer seemed to have jumped away.
That's our story. We're sticking to it. But the deer did, and it was a he. The deer did leave a little bit of himself.
Left a huge chunk of fur in the passenger side window, like between the window and the frame of the car.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of
otherwise we
slobber.
wouldn't have believed it actually happened.
And there's slobber on the windshield.
Yeah. We don't need all the details, David. I think we got the picture, but it was funny because after we assessed everybody, all the people are okay, the car seems to be okay, the deer is not in the road. You said, I have to say,
I'm not driving.
I wasn't driving.
It was the third thing. First I thought, oh, I'm going to die. And then, oh, you've wrecked the car. And then the third thought was a big giggle and, oh, I'm glad I'm not driving.
Yeah.
But so that was Christmas Eve. We
Yeah.
had a lovely, the rest of the time was adrenaline free.
Yeah.
But we had fun with family. We got to see grandchild and just a lot of
It's been
joy.
a good time off.
It has been.
Yeah. So we're back in the saddle and ready to talk about technology. Here we go.
And not cars. Well, we could talk about self-driving cars, but that's not.
It's all going to like intertwine at some point. But right now, AI is somewhat new. People are just figuring out how to integrate it into their work. And because both of us work with people, we're like, it's not going to
affect us.
No. So we both have felt a little bit removed from it. Like we're not going to have to worry about that too much because artificial intelligence is already being integrated into businesses and you've had to worry about it more as a professor. Are your papers being written by
the educational side of things? That was where I first ran into the concerns about AI.
Yeah, because now what's happening in education are people just saying, asking ChatGPT, write me a paper on family systems theory. And, how do you start to kind of figure out what's real, what's gotten a lot of help?
Yeah.
That's the first place you were worried about.
My daughter-in-law, who was a student, showed me ChatGPT. She goes, here, look it. And it did pretty well. Now, I've learned a little bit about
But she didn't write any papers. She
didn't.
Doesn't need to.
No.
She's a smart girl.
But if the AI doesn't know the answer, if it's generative AI, it does what people call AI hallucinations. And it writes as if it knows. It created false citations. So I've been talking with my students I think if we learn to use it as a skill and a tool, it'll be helpful. But you have to double check it. You have to do critical thinking. And not a lot of people have been doing that. So that's been the interface that I've had of how do we think, just like class, spell check. Yeah. So in class, I let my students use AI, but they have to cite it. They have to say what the prompt they use and what content they used from AI and how they checked it and integrated it into the paper. So it's a lot of work, but it's improved some of their writing. So I'm not going to lie, it's made it a lot easier to read.
Yeah. However, we thought, as a therapist and as a doula, we're just hands-on with people. So how is it going to ever integrate with our professions? But it's happening.
It is. And before the holidays, I had a conference asked me to come and talk about AI in the field of marriage and family therapy. And I laughed. I said, one, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And two, I don't think it's a concern. And this was only like 4 months ago. And I was like, I don't think we have to worry about it other than in the educational domain. And things have changed quickly. So we do have to figure out, because both of our professions are relational.
Yeah.
And we didn't think it could interfere, and it's now starting to be a thing. And I thought it would be fun to see. So
talk about how it's integrated into the therapy profession right now and what you see might happen in the future. I think we played with this quite a while ago. You found, I think it was an article or something about an experimental sort of AI therapist.
Yeah.
And how people actually did feel better after talking to this robot, basically.
That's right, yeah.
And you were like, that's not encouraging.
No, it was a it was a chat. I'm like, uh-oh, I don't have a career, and but it was limited in its ability to chat. Now it's getting more and more advanced. So there are chat bots or therapy bots now, AI bots that do interaction, and most of it's built on cognitive behavioral approaches. So thinking about mood, journaling, mindfulness, kind of rote
and like
behavioral
feedback.
things.
Because what you do, I know a lot of what both of us do relies a lot on reading nonverbal cues
Yeah.
and things that aren't being spoken or typed into anything.
Yeah.
So I imagine that part can never really be replaced, right?
Well, not yet.
I mean, I guess maybe
I
with
think it might
video,
be able to. I know I'm not
that's
quite
kind
sure
of
where
mind-blowing.
yeah, I'm not sure where we're going yet, but right now it's on script. And so there's two types of chatbots. One, it's a rule-based AI. So rule-based means you put like in a box, you put all the information you want it to access and it just access that alone. And that's been around for a long time. But the generative part is where it can start scraping from anywhere. And scraping data means just exploring anything that's published and grabbing it and then giving feedback. And there's been some serious problems with that because it has no ethics. It's just information is information. There's no valuing of it, and it gives it to them. And it's so I don't want to name the
I
products
wouldn't, because
but
by the time we record, time we publish this,
yeah, it'll
be
different.
obsolete. It'll be something new.
But it is allowing, I mean, the therapy part, it is allowing more people to have access that wouldn't necessarily have access. There's been a mental health crisis here in the US and globally that there's not enough providers for the amount of anxiety and stuff going on in people's lives. So here's a mechanism that it can scale
It can
to
be
the number
accessible.
of people, accessibility. The downside is the variability in actually being helpful and what it can be helpful with. So I think we do have to think about how we regulate this, how we use it as a tool, but we can't undo it and just say, oh, it's not going to be there.
It's not going away.
And then there's administrative parts that it's fascinating because there's and I think I would like to use it for this, but I'm worried about it. So you can upload, like we do videotaping of our clinical training. And so you could take that video or audio and upload it into the AI note taker software, and it'll take the hour of your therapy and write your clinical note for you from your orientation with what happened and with where you are in the therapy process and what should happen next. So it's really an external executive functioning for the therapist, which is frightening because I think part of the process of learning what to look for, as you said, in the embodied part of it, is that reflection on what happened, what did I hear, what did I see, how do I make sense of this? And right now, there's products out there where you can upload an audio and it'll write your note before you can blink and then move on to the next session.
Which seems so tempting as a time saver. But you're missing part of the learning process and probably part of the nuanced part that you might include in your notes, right?
Yeah. Well, and it just raises the question, is there something value added about human contact? I mean, that's the...
And I hope the answer's always yes.
Well, yeah. But I think we're having to ask it in new ways because what we thought was human contact is being able to be externalized to a computer being an external executive functioning. Now, the therapy realm that's happening, I was fascinated that I started to do a deep dive, and there is AI doula stuff.
Oh, I still had a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Because how does this? I'm just worried about, like, we're both bound by HIPAA in a lot of the work that we do. You know, the Privacy Act and confidentiality. Is that kept confidential if you upload your video of therapy and your notes and all that? Is there a way to keep that HIPAA compliant?
Yeah, well, you have to make sure the product has to be HIPAA compliant and for your own ethics. So like if I upload that and that service isn't HIPAA compliant, I'm in ethical and legal violation of my professional code.
Yeah.
And the two that I looked at that are the most common right now do have HIPAA compliance in terms of how the platforms where they're accessing the video, how they're storing it, and what they do with it subsequent to it being coded. So there's HIPAA, and then there's SOC, which is another form of kind of professional protected of medical records. And they are building these to be compliant, but compliance doesn't mean foolproof. And so even if you do that, they say they're HIPAA compliant, they have a data breach, you're liable.
Oh, you're liable.
Yeah, because you're responsible, even though you didn't need to upload it to that HIPAA compliant instrument, and you did. And so you're responsible for what happens there, even though you have no control over it.
So all of us thinking about how to integrate this into our own professions, you have to think about your own responsibility, right? For like what you're creating and how you're sharing stuff. But
I think it's not much different than the My Chart. Like for both of us and our healthcare provider, we have My Chart. So we have all of our data that they store that we can access, but it's in storage and they say it's HIPAA compliant until it's not.
Until it's not, Yeah, well, and
happy times, good times.
I know, good times. So fun, neat,
special. Oh yeah, we did watch that SNL.
NPR.
Let's not do that.
No. So you found out. I had not heard about this, but when you were kind of looking into our professions and how AI might integrate or infiltrate, however we want to say it, you found this thing called SOLA.
Yeah.
It looks like doula. It's spelled SOULA.
Like doula with an S.
Yes, but they pronounce it like soul.
I know. Soul.
And they market it as an AI. Let's see, I wrote it down.
Yeah. I wrote a different part of it down.
An AI powered women's wellness companion.
Yeah. The tagline I found was AI assistant for female well-being.
Similar. So I was kind of surprised to see that. It sounds like they're trying to create something that is also making sort of companionship and continuous care more accessible, but it's definitely not the same thing as a doula, as we talked more about it, because I was saying, how can you replace what I actually do as a doula is very literally hands-on. I'm in the room, I'm providing comfort measures,
a lot of hip squeezes.
Very, very physical and intuitive work. But, during COVID, when we weren't allowed to be present with each other, there arose the idea of virtual doulas and just being present.
Well, we had a whole family experience of that.
Well, see, this is the problem with security and HIPAA compliance, because I did attend a birth virtually once in, I think 2020. They wanted me to be sort of present. We were on an open video call. They had an iPad with my face on it up in the room through the entire, and this was a long process of labor.
Remember.
And I was at home.
You were basically in this room in the studio.
And I felt secure, but I did not have headphones on. So outside this room, the family heard a few sounds that made them alarmed.
Had to work with the kids, kind of little PTSD.
Yeah.
It's like, is everything okay in there?
So that, So that's a problem. Yeah. That was my first time ever doing that. And my last time, I did not feel like it was really. So part of the problem is, if you're present with somebody in a video, and this is true for therapy too, you don't know who else is in the room.
No.
You're present with whatever the camera is reaching, but you don't know who's around you. When I was in this situation at talking to my clients, sometimes I would hear a voice and realize a nurse had entered the room and was talking to them. And I couldn't see. It was very uncomfortable to not know who's around you, who's on the other end. So I find that problematic. And reduces kind of the safety component of having like a trusted care person.
And not
I
knowing.
didn't like it.
Like with our video right here, it's showing us on this side of the camera. They don't see the 27 other people that help run this podcast on the other side of the camera. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Nobody.
The big production nobody.
But it's that there has to be trust that we say, oh, it's just us in the room.
Yeah.
But you don't know and you don't have any control versus you're in the hospital room or you're in the therapy room. There is a bit of
And
connection.
so for this SOLA thing, I don't think they're trying to do the same thing. It sounds like they're trying to meet the informational and kind of companionship component of what a doula is, providing information when somebody has questions, which they can provide, but also just what feels like somebody's listening, that, you text the AI companion and they you reassure you, or they're there at 1:00 in the morning or whatever. So, I can see how, same as telehealth and stuff, it does close the gap on accessibility to information and stuff, but it just, right? It yes, that part sounds like it could be helpful, but I just feel like we're always going to miss the importance of human touch and intuition and like all those things that you can't really replace.
Well, and it does give access to people that might not have access, but it gives an access that's not a full-bodied experience. So I think about that. Those that may not have access, it is something, but then you're building a tier in terms of the best things go to the people with the most resources, and the bare minimum through technology goes to everyone else. And there's a scaffolding that happens that is problematic. And for me, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think about it in terms of just over my career, the change of my interaction with librarians. And I know that's a weird thought, but so for some of you might have no idea what I'm talking about. There used to be people that worked in libraries that were really, really helpful.
I think they're still there.
They are still there.
Yeah.
And we have a dedicated librarian for the psychology department. Yeah. It's specialized, and it's amazing the things that I don't either know the technology can do, or that's not in the technology that can be a resource because they're an expert in that. And we walk through the library. I had that when I was a kid. We would go to the library card catalog. I would write.
It was very physical to begin with. Yeah. You'd go through those little cards and you'd know that somebody either hand wrote or hand typed all those little things and put them in alphabetical order or numerical order in the Dewey Decimal System and all that stuff.
And then the books are correlated to that, and the librarians have been in charge of all that. And if you get stuck, you ask them and they walk you through it. They would walk me from the card catalog to the stacks. And in the stacks, there was the book I was looking for, but it's by section. So all the other books that are similar to that are there, and I would be lost for hours. I love the library, but that was the difference of someone was kind of mentoring and shepherding me through it versus the technology now of I go to Google Scholar to use one kind of skill set.
Okay. I just have to interject for just a second. You can go right back to this because it's great.
This is going to be about me being a scholar.
It is, because I love this picture you painted of how you just love to walk the aisles of the library and get to know the librarian. When we were in college and we met, you didn't know where the library was.
I knew where the good makeout sections of the library was.
No. And if I was ever going there, you would convince me to go get ice cream instead.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think you did develop a love for the library when you found your subject of choice. Yeah.
Yes. So both things can be true.
Yes, they can. But I just had to paint a little bit of a different picture.
Yeah, that's fair. I learned to love books differently later on.
Yes. And now you assign a lot of them to your students.
The right amount. I assign the right amount to them. But the whole piece being, I think that's been a shift that we've seen in our own academic careers of going from a kind of shepherding, mentoring to a resource that if we can't figure it out, they're there. That's the next level. And that's kind of what this feels like to me. that therapy, some of the basic things will be taken care of in AI. Just like I do my own searches on my laptop and I have this computing system, but I still need mentoring around that. I still need at times people to step in. And so thinking of it as a tool, because my gut reaction is it's horrible. We need human interaction and that's going to destroy the field. I think there's a more nuanced way, but it's taken me months to get there because the first response is this is horrible, because the second thing I wanted us to talk about was the importance of like, why do humans matter? Like the importance of human, because our whole conversations are about relationships and life transitions.
Right.
And so why do humans matter? Because now in our pockets, we have computers that are stronger than when we were in grad school.
Yeah.
So it's not about information.
Right.
And so in doula work, why do the human interactions matter? What happens that's value added to AI?
Well, the science supports that human connection. It's never about when the science shows that a doula or a trusted companion actually creates better outcomes. This is still a head scratcher for most of the medical field.
Yeah.
Why does doula care that's non-medical actually in study after study after study lead to better outcomes for the mother and the baby? We don't have our hands on the baby. We don't do anything medical.
Yeah.
And yet it's undeniable that outcomes, health outcomes and satisfaction outcomes and mental health are all better.
Yeah.
It has something to do with the information, but it has more to do with the human touch, the human connection that has a physical effect. A human has a physical effect on another human. And when a human is in the room and you connect well and you trust, it allows the physiology to work better.
Yeah.
It allows the stress hormones to come down. It allows the breathing to be more regulated. It allows the adrenaline to go down. All of those have a positive effect. And that can't be done just with the information that you can get on your phone. The information can be helpful if it's good information, but it's also hard to weed that out, right? So having a trusted human that you believe has already kind of vetted all that information helps you trust the source. And then in turn, the connection kind of makes that difference in how your body responds.
Yeah. It reminds me of our time in Louisville and then other places we've been, and the videos we get sent from our kids, specifically of the newborn, because what you're talking about, there's seeing our grandchild with their parents and how the grandchild's watching the face, but it's different than them seeing us or seeing the child seeing us on camera. So it's a face, but it's a in-person face that kicks up the mirror neurons. And so like right now she's learning how to make the tongue stick out and
blow raspberries.
Yeah. And you can see the neurobiology happening in that in-person moment that's different than just like if we would explain to her.
2D screen. Yeah.
Or if we're talking to her on camera.
Because it's sensory too. She gets the response from her parents and she watches their face and she feels and the smell, the touch, the taste, the sound, all of that.
Yeah. And you can see them adjusting to the focal length of her visual acuity, because they'll get closer. They find that right zone that they're just the right distance that it kind of kicks up. It's fascinating. And I think about that to your point in doula work, that there is a presence, like we can sense the presence of another. And I think for me, it's physiological, it's neurological, and it's also spiritual. I think it's how we're made, that we're made for relationship and this in-person relationship. And part of the problems that we see around anxiety, around birth problems in terms of delivery and complications are we're getting so far removed from being present with each other. And I worry that AI is it can do some of the things and we're willing to sacrifice our humanity for some of those things because it's convenient, it's easy. And we don't need another person. And we're getting more and more comfortable in isolation in our homes. I mean, we were out to eat the other night and see people on their phones all the time. You can be present with someone and still in isolation.
Yeah.
And technology is an amazing thing, and it's a threat. And it's an amazing thing in doula and therapy work, and it's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And I want us to find ways that we can use it as a tool and we can put it away. I mean, we were just watching the inauguration and saying, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they stripped all the phones out of the...
Frankly, I was really surprised to see that the very few chosen people who are in the, like, right in
Rotunda.
proximity of all the politicians and past presidents and all these people all were watching, but you could see all the phone screens up. I really thought that those would have to be checked at the door.
Right? Because you're missing, so you're recording something that you're physically present to have some kind of thing to hold on to, but you're missing the moment and the experience. The thing that kicked that up for me was there's a lady praying, and you highlighted this. It's like she's praying, but she had her hand up with the camera recording while her eyes were closed. It was the strangest thing. It looked like she was kind of worshiping her technology.
Yeah, we see that in lots of different ways everywhere. That is just kind of the integration of life with screens, which could be a whole
I think we might need to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit, and we probably will continue to because things keep changing. But no, I agree that the core of what we're talking about is that we're made for connection. Our whole bodies, our physiology, our psyche, all of that is made to connect with other humans. Yeah. And it's a gift that we were given is each other. And yet it's also messy. So people would love to find a way to just cut some of that out, you know? But even in the messiness, there's a lot of growth to be had and a lot of benefits for us.
Well, and the physical, like, I love that you talk about physical touch in appropriate ways. But like the physical touch that you do, you're not medical, but there's a soothing that happens. There's something that's powerful about touch. And
here's the thing too, because I was, as you were talking about that and the human element and what's different about that.
Yeah.
There are things that you could never quantify that you and I both pick up when we work with people and you were talking about our children and their baby, how they know they can sense the right distance to be from her, or when she gets overwhelmed if they get too close, or she gets anxious if they're too far. And you can't put a number on that or say why you think that. It's just something, it's an innate thing that we're created with. And some people are more sensitive to that than others. I think it's a skill that both of us use in what we do. Because some people that I'm working with in labor, touch is essential for them. My hands are literally on their skin the whole time. Mm-hmm. Other people think they're going to want that. And in labor, they don't want to be touched at all. Yeah. And I have to figure that out. Sometimes they don't say that verbally.
Right.
I have to read them. I have to read when it's time for me to step back and let them be as a couple, when it's time to step in. And I can't always measure that or teach somebody that. It's just a human thing that we have to learn and train ourselves and learn to be sensitive to be able to really relate well and understand those small cues and be able to connect in a way that's healing and not harmful.
Yeah. Because it's surprising. Sometimes people say the opposite of what they want or what they need or what they think they need. I mean, supervising, I'll be like, oh, this is what you need to go in and say. And the students do, and they're like, how did you know that? It's like, well, did you notice the body position? Did you notice the eyes? What was happening for you? What you were sending out? And they're like, but I said everything you told me to say. And it's like, it's not just saying it, but it's how you say it. And that comes with the kind of wisdom. And I think wisdom is making lots of mistakes and learning from them. Mm-hmm. Like trying to explain why things work has been the hardest part of supervising and training. And I know for you too, training young doulas and parenting, it's just like, well, there's repetition.
And parenting, that's part of it too, right? Is like people try to give these, step 1, step 2, step 3 to success for parenting.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
I know, right? Because it doesn't work for every family. It doesn't work for different children in the same family.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we have to do in all of these things we're talking about is learn to observe.
Yeah.
Learn to observe the small things and be the expert on that person, in what you're learning. And we make mistakes, and that's how we learn. But the more we observe and stay curious and stay humble, and ask for wisdom.
Well, and it's being in the room with each other, right? Like I can have an idea of who you are. And then we get together and it's like, oh, this abstract thing that I could put you in a bucket. Now there's a unique person here that I have to interact with differently. And I think it's why peace accords, it's why couples therapy, it's why church community needs to be done at least sometime in the same physical space, because you get to experience and know each other, not a head knowledge, but know each other in terms of you're a unique human being that I'm interacting with and not just an idea.
Yeah.
And so AI provides us with ideas. It doesn't provide us embodied. Now, I can imagine a time when we have, I read way too many Isaac Asimov books when I was growing up, and the iRobot and Foundation series, that robots could do that. They were embodied. They weren't like physical. Well, they did get that way at the end, but they could interact. And so then the question is there still something more than just that part? Right now, that's the part that's unique that we contribute to each other. I think we'll still have to think about that. How are you going to incorporate AI in your doula work? Because I'm thinking through, like, there's a lot that we have to do about this, and what does that even look like? Kind of partnering with AI rather than fighting it.
Yeah, and I don't think either of us are ready to completely understand how that's going to work. No. I know for me, even with my doula trainings, a lot of them are going online now. I'm not interested in that right now. I think there might be a reason why that's necessary sometimes, but the embodiment part, the touch part is so important. So I don't want to go there. But as far as AI, I've already used it in a business sense sometimes as a helpful little assistant. So just to refine things I'm already doing that I've already, maybe just for some website content or something, and I've written it, but I just feel like I need another set of eyes, and I run it through and say, what do you think of this wording? If, and AI sometimes will make another suggestion that can be helpful. Yeah. So far, that's it for me. Yeah. But I know we're moving to a place where we're going to have to understand this more, and where humanity is irreplaceable. And
I'd love to hear from people that are actually doing more of this, because you and I right now are just in the conceptual, we're in the disembodied kind of interaction with AI. And because I don't know I have ideas of like the paperwork part, but I don't have the ideas of what to do with these bots that are actually doing the therapy, and what are the legal and ethical places that needs to go. There needs to be those conversations, and people have to have trial and error. I just don't think it's us.
We're not the trial and error.
We're not in this. I think we're trial and error in a lot of things. I just don't know about AI though.
No. Well, it's going to be fodder for discussion for a long time. Yeah. And so if people have thoughts or ideas or connections or resources on it, please send it our way that we can share it as well with other people. But really, the bigger thing is just the discussion about the boundaries between technology and humanity. Yeah. I think we've struggled with that since the beginning of the technological age, right? Like every generation is lamenting some new thing that comes on the scene. Yeah. And how is this going to work? And how can this replace the work I do? And we have to figure out how to stay congruent and stay, valuable in who we are, and stay connected.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And going back to our microbiome, eat some dirt.
That was a big leap.
Connect with
the earth, connect with people. That always has to happen.
There is that part that there's good research that says connecting with each other, connecting with the earth, playing is is just as important as how you think about things or having assistants to do things. I love assistants to do things.
I know.
So,
I know. You find the help.
I do find the help. And AI might be a new avenue, but we need both, I think is our takeaway. I started out the search on this of like, hate AI. Let's just talk about how we avoid it and set up laws against it. And I've moved that I think it can be helpful, but we need to think of it as a tool.
Yeah.
And be willing to embrace and use it. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's now we'll go and have AI write the show notes for us.
See if we'll write 2. See if you can guess which one was us.
That's a great idea.
And which one wasn't. All right.
Perfect.